Section 1. The hum before the silence. It started as a strange hum. Then entire systems went dark. The first reports were scattered, dismissed as local anomalies or simple technical glitches. People heard the sound late at night, a low, persistent thrumming. It seemed to vibrate in the air itself. In some towns and quiet valleys, it felt like a distant, idling engine. In sprawling urban centers, it was mistaken for a deep, resonant tone from a forgotten industrial plant. Then, almost in unison, small signs of modern life began to fail. Streetlights flickered and died. Digital clocks on kitchen appliances froze, displaying impossible times. Small, mundane systems simply stopped. There were no explosions, no flashes of light in the sky. It was a creeping, insidious quiet. In several districts across Europe, cars suddenly stalled on highways, dashboards going black. Pilots on transatlantic routes logged momentary losses of instrument readings. A fisherman off Norway watched his sonar dissolve into digital snow. The trail of electronic breadcrumbs led investigators to a desolate, frozen expanse of the Earth. Intelligence agencies, using signal triangulation satellite reconnaissance, traced the origin of the hum to a remote site in Siberia. The location was shrouded in mystery. Its coordinates were not listed on any public maps, and its official designation, if it had one, was buried in classified archives. Whispers among analysts suggested it was an old Soviet-era installation, a relic of a bygone technological arms race, now seemingly brought back to life. The facility was known only as the object, the circle. Commercial satellite photos, purchased on the open market by curious journalists, showed a collection of massive, dish-shaped antennas. These dishes, some measuring dozens of meters across, sat like sleeping, metallic giants in the vast white landscape. They were surrounded by low, windowless gray buildings and a perimeter fence that stretched for kilometers. A single, unpaved road snaked its way through the snow-covered plains, often impassable and disappearing entirely under winter drifts. He spoke of seeing strange, silent lights moving in the distant darkness and feeling a low vibration in his chest that made his teeth ache. The hum was not the sound of decay. It was the sound of a machine being turned on. The Siberian echo was a signal sent out into the world. The true power of the signal was not in what it did, but in what it undid. It did not destroy. It simply erased. It was a wave of pure interference, but on a scale never before witnessed. It operated with a surgical precision that baffled engineers. Unlike a crude electromagnetic pulse, which fries all electronics in its path, this signal seemed to target the very fabric of modern communication and navigation. It caused GPS satellites to momentarily lose their lock on the ground, making their precise timing signals drift just enough to render them useless for navigation. For a few minutes, the world's most reliable positioning system became a liar. Across the Atlantic, the consequences rippled through critical infrastructure. A high-speed train in Germany lost its automated timing signal, forcing the entire network to revert to manual control and causing cascading delays. At major airports from London to Chicago, flights were grounded not because of any direct damage, but because air traffic controllers could not fully trust their radar and communication systems. They needed to verify every piece of equipment before risking lives. A shipping container terminal reported that its automated cranes, guided by GPS, had frozen in place. The global supply chain experienced a brief, terrifying pause. A paramedic in a rural area said his vehicle's GPS failed while responding to an emergency, forcing him to rely on a fading memory of back roads. For 5 minutes, I was blind. A drone operator contracted by an energy company to inspect a remote pipeline watched in horror as his control screen turned to static. The multi-million-dollar drone, lost to the signal, drifted aimlessly before crashing into a hillside. Behind the closed doors of military and intelligence headquarters, the response was swift but silent. Western governments issued no public statements. They offered no explanations for the strange reports of stalled cars, failing GPS. This official silence was a strategy in itself. Admitting the existence of such a capability could incite public panic and reveal the West's own vulnerabilities. In the classified corridors of NATO headquarters in Brussels, analysts were working frantically. They gave the phenomenon a code name: the silence protocol. The name was deliberate and ominous. It implied the signal was not random, but deliberate and repeatable. A protocol initiated at will. The first leaked memo, a single page marked secret, no foreign, was stark. It confirmed the signal came from Siberian territory and described effects as wide area, multi-spectrum denial of service. The memo did not speculate on intent. It warned allied nations that their command, control, communications infrastructure was potentially vulnerable to a new form of electronic warfare. Public denial and private panic created a vacuum quickly filled with speculation. The name the Silence Protocol captured the public imagination, like a spy thriller spilling into reality. Was this a test? A warning? The prelude to something far worse? Government silence was almost as unnerving as the silence of the signal. Among the experts scrambling to make sense of the Silence Protocol, two dominant theories emerged. The first, and perhaps most straightforward, cast the signal as a revolutionary new form of cyber weapon. The theory posits brute force flooding of the radio spectrum. Imagine trying to have a conversation in a room where someone is blasting a siren, you know? The siren doesn't destroy your voice, it drowns it out completely. In the same way, this signal could generate massive digital noise across frequencies used by GPS, cellular networks, military radios. By overwhelming these channels with static, it renders them useless. A weapon like this would create what strategists call a contested environment, blinding an adversary before a single shot is fired. The sophistication, however, lies in its precision. The signal did not appear to be a simple continuous blast of noise. It came in pulses and seemed to target specific frequency bands while leaving others untouched. This suggests an advanced system analyzing a target's electronic environment and tailoring the jamming signal for maximum effect. It could be programmed to shut down a city's navigation systems while leaving its emergency broadcast channels open. A level of control both technically brilliant and strategically terrifying. The Siberian facility, with its massive antennas and remote location, would be the perfect place to develop and test such a system, far from prying eyes and sensitive civilian infrastructure. If this theory is correct, the world just witnessed the first public demonstration of a weapon that could redefine the opening moves of any future conflict. The hum was not an anomaly, it was a demonstration of power. Section 6. The Cold War Ghost Theory. The second major theory looks not to the future but to the haunted past. This viewpoint suggests the Silence Protocol is not a new invention, but the resurrection of a forgotten Cold War project. It could be a remnant of a program like the infamous Russian Woodpecker, a colossal over-the-horizon radar system from the 1970s that blasted a disruptive signal across global shortwave bands. Perhaps the facility was designed for something even more exotic, like an attempt to manipulate the ionosphere for long-range communication disruption. Proponents argue the fundamental technology may have been old, but it has been rediscovered and retrofitted with modern computers, control systems. Old hardware, new software could create a hybrid system with unexpected and powerful capabilities. This ghost theory is compelling because it accounts for the sheer scale of the facility. Building such massive antennas from scratch today would be a monumental and highly visible undertaking. Revitalizing an existing forgotten site would be far easier to conceal. It has the feel of an old, powerful engine being brought back to life, its raw power now guided by a more precise, modern hand. It suggests there may be other sleeping giants from the Cold War era hidden away in the world's remote places, waiting to be reawakened. If an old project could be revived to create such a potent effect, what other forgotten weapons might be lurking in the archives? The hum from Siberia could be the sound of history repeating itself, a ghost from the past rising to threaten the present. Section 7. Whispers from the Ground. Beyond the high-level analysis of intelligence agencies and military experts, a different kind of picture emerged from the quiet stories of ordinary people who found themselves caught in the signal's path. These were not tales of war or espionage, but small, unsettling accounts of a world momentarily thrown off kilter. A night watchman patrolling an industrial park reported that his trusted handheld GPS suddenly showed his position in the middle of a nearby lake. By dawn, he realized he had been driving in circles for nearly an hour, completely disoriented on roads he had known for years. A long-haul trucker navigating a narrow mountain pass at night said his entire dashboard went dark, including his navigation screen and digital tachograph. He was forced to pull over to the shoulder and wait for his systems to reboot. A ship captain guiding a tanker into a busy port described how his primary and backup navigation instruments blinked out simultaneously, while the ship's digital compass seemed to spin aimlessly. For a crucial few minutes, he was steering by sight alone. A farmer in the American Midwest explained that his fleet of automated seeders, which rely on precise GPS coordinates to plant crops in perfect rows, simply stopped working. The screens in the cabs displayed a signal lost error. In a small town in coastal Canada, the internet went down for several hours. Residents reported hearing the low hum, a sound they initially blamed on a nearby power substation. These individual stories, when collected, formed a mosaic of low-level disruption, the true reach of the silence protocol. They show how deeply dependent modern life has become on a constant, invisible stream of data. The signal did not need to be a weapon of war to be a weapon of disruption. Section 8. The official veil and private fear. In the weeks that followed the event, the official response from world governments settled into a carefully managed script. Publicly, spokespeople from various ministries acknowledged reports of temporary GPS interference, communications interference. They attributed it to potential solar activity or routine system tests. They called for calm and urged journalists to avoid sensationalism. They promised technical experts were investigating thoroughly. This veil of calm bureaucracy was designed to project control and prevent widespread alarm. But behind this placid facade, a current of deep anxiety ran through the corridors of power. Privately, conversations were far more candid and fearful. "We can track the source to the north," he confided, "and we are watching the dishes and the vehicle movements. But we don't fully understand the physics of it. It's a new playbook." NATO's internal assessments, circulated in heavily redacted reports, painted an even darker picture. One analysis concluded the event was likely a probe, a deliberate test to map vulnerabilities of Western infrastructure. The signal was not an attack, but a reconnaissance mission. It was learning what systems failed, how quickly they could be restored, and how robust the backup procedures were. The official silence meant the public had to rely on leaks and speculation, which often exaggerated the threat. The leaked documents, in turn, confirmed that the threat was indeed real, fueling more anxiety. The truth, as is often the case, was likely somewhere in the middle. The hum was real, the power to cause harm was real, but the intent remained a terrifying, unanswered question, hidden behind a veil of official secrecy. Section 9. The unanswered question. In the cold, desolate north, the Siberian facility sits and waits. Its great dishes, like metallic ears, are tilted toward the sky. No one outside a small, secret circle knows if they are listening or preparing to speak again. The hum has not returned in the same way, but the silence it left behind reverberates around the world. It was a signal that revealed a profound fragility at the heart of our interconnected civilization. It showed that the complex web of satellites, cables, waves can be silenced, not with a bomb, but with a sound. The world is now forced to grapple with this new reality. In response, a quiet, invisible arms race has begun. Engineers are designing new navigation systems that are less reliant on GPS, building communication networks with enhanced encryption, testing frequency hopping capabilities to evade jamming. Military planners are dusting off old skills, training pilots to navigate by stars, soldiers training with paper maps, soldiers training with compasses. There is a renewed emphasis on resilience, creating backups for the backups. These are necessary steps, but they are reactive. They are an attempt to build a shield after the sword has already been revealed. This is not just a technical or military problem, it is a moral one. A power that can selectively blind a region, stop emergency services, isolate entire populations, is a power of immense consequence. It blurs the line between wartime and peacetime, creating a state of permanent, low-level conflict fought in the invisible electromagnetic spectrum. The hum from Siberia was more than a test of technology. It was a test of will. It was a question posed to the international community. How do you respond to a threat you cannot see? The signal is out there, a ghost in the machine of the modern world. Its name is whispered in intelligence briefings, debated in secret laboratories. But for the rest of us, it leaves a single, simple, and terrifying question hanging in the air. If one nation, from one remote facility, can acquire the power to silence its rivals with a hum, what happens when they decide to turn the volume up? And when the silence falls again, will it be temporary, or will it be for good?